Parliamo di cinema, una tenera vipera ad ogni genera che oggi è bigama, all'anima libera che non ha più fisima, la gente cinica, misera e anonima, chi vive a Panama ed è morta a Veneta. Parliamo di cinema e di ciò che ci va. John.
Nostalgia Broadcast.
Ciao, benvenuti in Nostalgia Podcast, siamo qui negli uffici Minerva Picture e siamo qui con un grande ospite, Asif Kapadia. What's
Perfect.
Which one is it?
I don't mind.
Ok, there's no wrong, ok. E siamo qui per parlare del suo nuovo film che uscirà a breve, 2073.
Esce il 16
che
giugno,
a breve,
quando
poi
esce anche questa puntata.
Esce il 16 giugno, quando uscirà questa puntata, 2073, l'ultima chiamata.
Ultima chiamata.
Ultima, ho detto.
No, è l'ultima.
No, ho detto ultima.
Ah, ok, ho sentito la L in più.
Grazie all'avvocato Lucina che mi
Il film è distribuito da Film Club e Minerva Pictures e cercavo approvazione, e niente, io inizierei con la prima domanda, una domanda un po' a general question for your career. How far along in your career does this film come?
Interesting question.
I ask for some director who have a long career.
So I'm in my 50s now, and I started making films when I was like 17. So it's been a long time. And I started working for other people. So my first career was I was on the crew working for other people. So I would to start with, I made like coffee and tea, and I carried the equipment. And then I was an assistant editor, and I was a first assistant director. Did the camera, I did the sound recording for other people. Then I made short films, and I made a lot of short films, and I studied cinema. And then I made fiction films. So most of my early films were drama. I was the writer and the director of fiction films. Then I had another life where I made Senna, Amy, Maradona, and I'd made documentaries. So now I'm mixing the documentaries and the drama together with 2073. So it's almost like my fifth life in cinema, I mean.
In the documentaristic part of your movie, we can see Silvio Berlusconi at one point. And since we're here in Italy, I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, what is his role, the role of Silvio Berlusconi in the rise of the extreme right?
So, obviously, you will know better than me because you're Italian, okay? But what I would say is that the film has a lot of characters, a lot of people in it. And in a way, he's kind of the godfather of populist leaders in Europe in present day. He's like the friends of lots of people. He did it in a very particular way. Again, I'm live in London. I don't live in Italy. But the idea of owning the media organization, the idea of owning a football club, the idea of owning lots of things that then you can use to make yourself more popular is now the classic. Everyone copies this. Own Twitter. Own your own news organization. Own something that will always make you look good and distract the audience with like housewives on TV in the daytime and a football team. So they're not paying attention to what's happening to the actual country. And he was also friends with lots of leaders, including Tony Blair, including Boris Johnson, and lots of our leaders then would come to have lovely parties. You tell me what happened in the parties, but in his house. So I think he's quite an important character in European politics. And when there was any trouble, the law would somehow change or something would happen and he could keep going and keep shifting things to stay in power, which pretty much now everyone tries to do.
Since you said that your career has been split by documentary, fiction film and TV, also you made Mindhunter, you won the Academy Award for Hammy, ricordiamo, ha vinto l'Oscar pure, il nostro ospite premio Oscar. I was wondering, what is the most exciting thing about changing so many different media, languages?
So I guess for me, the way my brain is, I get bored. And the great thing about being a filmmaker, a film director, is like no 2 days are the same. Never. Every day is different. Every day is about challenges. And I would say the really important thing for becoming a filmmaker is when something goes wrong, how do you deal with it? Some people panic. Some people worry. They say, no, I wanted it to be like this and it's become like this. Some people go, okay, this is interesting. I think we do this. And my brain has always been like that. I whenever something goes wrong, or on a film shoot, which for a lot of people is very stressful, I feel much more calm during the making of a film and making of a project. I feel like I'm in a zone. And it's like, okay, you have to learn to trust your gut. So for me, one is I don't like to get bored and I want to challenge myself. That's the whole thing about being a filmmaker is, what is it you want to do? What do you want to say? What are you trying to do? So that's really the interest for me. And so for me, making short films, long films, documentary, television, sports film, a music film, fiction, a western, a musical, a sci-fi, the directors that I love are the directors that work in lots of different genres. And so, because that's what the director's job is, to tell a story. Yeah. And if you are storyteller, it doesn't matter how long the story is, or which language it's in, or who the characters are, or what the genre is. It's telling a story. Yeah. And for me, that's what excites me. So for me, the challenge is I've never made a film properly in Italy. I made a short film here a few years ago. I want to make a film in Italy. Wow. So whenever I go somewhere, I'm like, how can I come back here? I like Italy a lot. Mm-hmm. To spend time in Italy, I need to make a film in Italy, So that's part of the thing. I've been lucky. I made a film in Brazil with Senna. Mm-hmm. I made a film in the North Pole with Michelle Yeoh called Far North. Mm-hmm. I did a film in Napoli, which is about Diego Maradona. Mm-hmm. I did a film in London, Amy. So it's like I've made films in the US, and I made my first film, The Warrior, was a Western, like Sergio Leone, in India. So it's like one of the great things also is, if you're lucky, you get to go to places and meet people and collaborate with different people each time. And then you do press, and then you meet people when you do. So the whole thing is this great feeling of realizing we all have a lot in common. And film festivals, I must mention as well. So for me, some of the most special things is you make a movie, and then if you're lucky enough to have your film premiere at Venice or in Cannes or at Sundance, then there's like nothing beats that feeling of premiere. Your first time you show your film to the audience is like the most special feeling.
Of course. I remember this, the screening of Maradona in Piazza Grande in Locarno. And I was watching the movie. I enjoyed it very much.
That was amazing.
Yeah, and I remember looking at you under... And you spy on the projection.
Taking photos.
Yeah.
I just kept walking around taking photos because this is unreal.
Yes,
yeah, exactly.
I remember.
It was like the full moon. Right. It was a beautiful night, the full moon, and Piazza Grande was full.
Yes.
And it was just the most amazing thing. There you go.
Yeah,
that was great.
Very great.
The first film that mixes a documentary with fiction. It's real, okay?
Correct.
Correct.
Correct. If we're wrong.
I think, yes, I think you're right.
Okay. Yes. Did you initially want it to be just one of the two genre?
No, it was always both. Because when I did Senna, I did it in a kind of, part of the fun for me is also, I like to push the genre. Mm-hmm. So my first film, The Warrior, I made from the UK. And I made this film, my first film, as a Western in India, not in English. And everyone's like, you can't do that. You have to make a simple film at home. And I said, no, I want to make a film in the desert. And somehow we made it. And it was successful in the UK, very successful. And then when I did Senna, I've never made a documentary before. And I was like, well, can I make a documentary that feels like a feature film, that has no interviews, that's just like, in the sequences, in the archive. So you almost forget you're watching a documentary. And then I did the same style with Amy and Maradona. And in a way, lots of documentaries have copied that style now. It's become very common to make films with archive. So Senna really was the one that changed documentaries in a way. So then when I made this film, I thought, I know there's no central character. It's not one theme. It's not about one country. It's not one person. So I thought this is going to be difficult to make a film about everything happening everywhere in the world at the same time. The audience needs something to hold on to. And that's where I felt, well, I will have drama in this one. I want to have a brilliant act. I didn't know if it would be an actor or an actress, or I didn't know. I knew I would try a voiceover, and I knew I would have a central character, because I always think about the genre. And in this one, I was thinking, this is dystopian sci-fi. And so sci-fi films have a certain style, like Alien and Blade Runner. So can I do something like that, but using archive? So I thought I'm going to need fiction. And also for me, it becomes the new challenge because a lot of documentaries try to do drama and often do it pretty badly, I think. And my feeling was, okay, I should have no excuse because my background is in fiction films. I've made a lot of fiction feature films. So there must be a way to write it where the documentary and the drama integrate much better. And so that was the hope. But nobody knows anything, right? It's an experimental film. So I was like, let's try it. And I made it with the budget of a documentary. Nobody gave me extra money. So I had to somehow find a way to save enough money to cast Samantha Morton, to cast Naomi Ackie. Samantha Morton was in Minority Report. Naomi Ackie, she was just in, like, is it called Mickey 17 or something?
Yes.
So they're both like brilliant actors and they're turning up to do this documentary. The cameraman, he shot Arrival, Bradford Young, and he shot one of the Star Wars movies. And the way we shoot this film, we use LED volumes. Like the sets are virtual, like The Mandalorian. So even though it's a documentary, the crew and the cast and the technical aspects are like sci-fi film. So that was all kind of the design that I had in mind right at the beginning. And then it's like, okay, how do I do this and follow this through? I've done quite a lot of commercials. And then when I did Mindhunter, all of the car scenes in Mindhunter are done in an LED cube. The car never moves. So I had experience from doing Mindhunter. I did a car crash in one of my episodes, but the whole car crash was done virtually. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, I have a bit of experience. Maybe I can use all of this experience in this movie. So that's what we tried to do.
In Minority Report, where Samantha Morton is one of the main actresses, and the movie is really about the 11th September, I guess. And in the first part of your movie, you...
Sorry, I didn't understand. Say that again. The
11 September. The Twin Towers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, in my opinion.
9/11.
Sorry.
No. I said, in your opinion, the movie is about...
Yeah.
Okay.
Security, I mean...
it's a consequence of two things, 9/11 and the financial crisis.
Okay.
These are the two big things that happened in the recent past that create populism, I would say.
Okay, and so I would like to ask you, in the first part of the movie, you talk a lot about the persecution that Muslims live nowadays. So I wanted to ask you, did you want to say maybe that Muslims are nowadays a main target for the hate of the masses? Maybe they are used this way by the politicians?
Absolutely. I think they're the scapegoats for everyone, everywhere. It's a very easy kind of populist trick to say, these Muslims are going to come to your country. They're all, they're going to attack you. They're terrorists. They're going to steal your jobs. They're going to do this. And I think they have become the kind of very easy bad people that people attack. And people, unfortunately, a lot of people believe it. So that's one of the themes. Also, a lot of these people hate women. So they're often the people they attack online and everywhere. So you have women, you have Muslims, you have black people, you have poor people. Everyone who is like a minority in some form or not in power is an easy person. So what you have is they're bullies, really. They punch down. Anyone beneath them, the people up at the top are saying, we should not be paying our taxes. We shouldn't be doing all this stuff. It's not us. Blame them. And unfortunately, that's the kind of the easy way that people seem to use. And sadly, unfortunately, it seems to work, or people start to believe it. I would say that was a big part of Brexit. It's like people were lying about things and then they fool people into voting for something to make their life worse, to take away their own freedom to travel and freedom to be educated, freedom to do lots of things. It's crazy. Not one good thing has come out of Brexit, and it was 10 years ago. But the people who asked for it and pushed for it, they took the money and ran. You never see them again now. And that's the trick. That's what they do. It's like a confidence trickster. They kind of do the magic cards and then take your money. And before you know where your money's gone, they've run away. That's my feeling. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that, I think that I would say the fun thing about, it's not fun, obviously, but lots of misogynists attack Muslims because of what they do to women. I think that's the twisted thing of all. I mean, right. They treat women badly, and so we hate them. But you too treat women. You don't care at all about women. Yeah. So
And most of these people have never been to a country where there are any Muslims or been anywhere or know any Muslims to know whether that's true or not, because it's not, you know.
In your opinion, nowadays, now that we know that the world is crumbled with your film, your movie, I think of our guest Rolf Peck that we interviewed with this new movie, when the world is going bad and everything what happened, what do you think that the role of cinema is in the future? It will be something to a warning. Your movie is supposed to be a warning to open the mind to knowing, or the movies, the cinema as another role in the future, another completely, I don't know.
So, I mean, it's a really good question. It's a very big question, isn't it? Because the idea is things are happening in the world. So, on one hand, people would say, well, then, you know, cinema should just be entertainment because the problems are so bad, people they want to escape. And that's fine. You know, there's escapism. Or they want to go and see a horror film because they like to be scared, but they know it's pretend, and then they can go back and everything's great. I also think there should be a scale and scope for art to be political and to question things and to challenge people and not be comfortable. And in a way, I consciously decided with this film to make something that was political, that was challenging, Now, if you do something like that, number one, it's really hard to raise the money. Much easier to get the comedy money or the horror film money or the kind of entertainment, supposedly anyway. But you have to say, well, for me, it was that I'm at a certain age. I've reached a certain point in my career. I've been making films a long time. I'm very lucky. I, won an Oscar, won lots of BAFTA awards. I've made films that have been very successful. So in a way, if you have like some power, what do you do with it when this stuff is going on around you in the world? So for me, that's exactly when you should make something challenging. You should challenge yourself. You should challenge the audience. You should challenge the industry. And you should be saying, I can see things. I'm older. I have an experience. I can see what's going on. For me, it's important to use that opportunity to make difficult work. And the thing about cinema, music, painting, whatever it might be, literature, once you created it, it lasts forever. That's the thing, right? Not everybody has to understand or care about the meaning the day a painting is done. The meaning comes with time and context and history and your own experience. The same with music, the same with books, George Orwell or Brave New World or, whatever it might be. And then you look at, 2001, we're still watching it. It was made in the 60s, okay? You look at movies made in the 60s or the 70s or the 80s and they have different meaning now. So for me, it was important. The way I would describe it is each documentary sequence in the film is like a time capsule. It's a collection of everything that happened in the last 10 years about authoritarian leaders or dictators, or the climate, or surveillance, or technology, or the tech bros, the guys in power. Just during the process of making this film, I remember there were lots of people who thought Elon Musk was great 5 years ago. And then they're like, oh my God. And then there were other people that were financiers that were saying, why have you got Donald Trump in the film? He's gone. He's old news. People are sick of him. Take him out of the film. I kept getting notes from my executive saying, take Donald Trump out of the film. And I said, yeah, but he's history. We should not run away. I'm going to keep it in. By the time the film's finished, there's an election. And then before Venice, he hadn't been elected yet. By the time we finish it and release it, he's the president. Suddenly, like in a few months, the meaning of the film changed. So what's going to happen in a few years? So that's the point of art. Yeah. The art is to challenge and to question. And you don't have to understand everything, but because sometimes it takes time to understand what is the importance of what is it saying? What does it say to you? Plus, what it means to me is one thing. What it means to all of you could be something completely different. Yeah, and that's fine. That's the whole point. It's just like I create something because I had to. And honestly, I thought if this is the last film I make, I don't really care. I had to make it.
Yeah. You've been a precog, like a Minority Report. You've seen Trump re-electing.
This is what Carol, the journalist, Carol Cadwallader said. She said, you're a precog. And I never thought about it like that. But I tell you why. Because the film is personal in many ways. My background is from India. I've known about Narendra Modi and what's happening in India for a long time because my family is from Gujarat. I worked in Brazil when I was making Senna, so I could see that they had a military dictatorship up until the 80s. And older people, my composer, he's from Brazil. His father was imprisoned by the military. But the young people that work with me from Brazil wanted a strongman leader to just shoot all the gangsters. Oh. And that's how Bolsonaro gets in.
Of course.
Right? And then you see what's happening in Europe and in Eastern Europe and what happens with Trump and then what happens in the UK with Nigel Farage and Brexit. So it's like I'm looking at it everywhere and this is happening everywhere. I've got to somehow express this in a film. That's why I had to make this.
Of course.
We made the last question that
we do all our guests.
Our guest. The first is how many days in a week or in a month you go to the cinema?
To theater.
That's that's going to be a difficult question for me, right? Because I spend all day long making films.
Of course.
That my cheating answer, I'm going to cheat.
Yeah, of course.
Is that in my office, which is, say, like this, I have a projector. And whenever I watch something, an edit or something that I'm working on, I project it. Okay? So I black out all the room and I sit there in the dark and I project on the big screen. I literally have a big screen.
Kind of big cheat, this.
Yeah, I'm cheating, man. I'm cheating.
Yeah.
Because for people like me, and I don't know anyone else, but for me, I have this thing where in, say, the summer, I'm just working.
Yeah.
Working. But because I vote for the Academy Awards, I vote for the BAFTA Awards, I vote for the European Awards, they asked me to be on a jury. Around autumn and winter, I watch a lot. So I save them up. If I go to a film festival, I always go to watch a film. Most people I know, they go to Cannes, they go to Venice. They don't watch any films. They go to hang out and they're drinking and they're partying. I'm like, did you watch any movies? No, I don't watch movies. You're like, but you work in the film industry and you don't watch films. So I'm like, I always go when I'm at a festival. You have to watch a film. And you have to remember, this is why I love it. You go to the big cinema and you see 2,000 people wearing a tuxedo to watch a movie. You're like, yeah, this is art. Okay. But daily, week by week, my brain is like obsessed with what I'm making. So I save up the watching till the end of the year. That's the cheating answer.
Yeah, because we asked this question because in Italy, the usual host, they're saying, no, I don't go watch movies because I'm busy with mine. And so we thought, why we should go to see your movie if you don't see others' movie? Why? So we asked this question.
It's a real challenge. What I will say in my defense, I definitely am not a television person, right?
Okay.
I fall asleep if I watch TV. So I only watch cinema. And when I go to cinema, I don't fall asleep. I had young children. When I had young children, I used to fall asleep. It's true. But now, no more. But so normally, if I go to a city, what I would try to do, one, watch a football match or some sport, and go to the cinema. So tonight, I will go to the cinema.
Oh.
It's my film, but I'm still going to the cinema.
Oh.
So this week, I've been to the cinema about 5 times. Each time I saw my own film. But it's still, that's not the question. I went to the cinema.
This is cheating. This is cheating
No.
too.
You didn't say that. You didn't say watching other people's film. You just said, how often you go to the cinema? This week, 6 times. Beat that.
And last question, classical, your favorite movie?
No, it's not.
No, sorry. Allora, tu, l'ultima.
More than one last
No,
question.
sorry, there are 2. Because one of the 2 questions is split in 2. Sorry.
Okay.
An experience in a theater, in a movie theater that you remember with
Not my film.
not my film.
Not
No,
Okay.
no, also yours,
Okay.
but
I can give you lots, right? I'll give you one example. I think it was around 2001, the Edinburgh Film Festival. I was in Scotland, and I went to see. Here's a challenge to all of you. I went to see a Hitchcock film at the cinema. Have you ever seen Hitchcock at the cinema?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
So
saw
Psycho. I went to see Psycho. Have you seen Psycho at the cinema?
Psycho, yeah.
No,
Okay.
cinema, no. But
So
I saw it,
Vertigo and Psycho, you have to see at the cinema.
Yeah,
so
Vertigo, I
the
saw it in
amazing
theaters.
thing was to see
Digo io.
Psycho at the cinema and to pretend you don't know where this film is going. And it is the most scary, shocking film because you are so brainwashed to watch a character and you know this character is important and you're following this woman, Marion, and you follow her, and it's like a thriller. And then she dies. I don't want to spoil it for anyone. She gets brutally murdered. And you're like, can I swear? Fuck! What happens now? Like, just this idea that somebody did that in the 60s, I think it was 1960, late 50s, 60, to kill off your central character, and then you're like, I have no idea where this film's going to go. And luckily, I have a bad memory, so I had forgotten where this film was going to go. So I would say seeing Psycho at the cinema 25 years ago is one. I'll give you another couple of examples. The films that really affected me. Have you seen, I saw the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre at the cinema. Oh, my God. Bloody hell. I mean, at the ending, there's no music or anything. The film finishes and no one's breathing, right? The cinema is just like silent. That is so terrifying. And it's just an incredible film because essentially it happens in daylight. It's in daylight, in the daytime, in Austin, Texas, and it's one of the scariest films I've ever seen. I'll give you a couple more. Have you ever seen a Russian film, Come and See?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
So this film was very difficult to see. You seen it in the cinema?
One of the best movie ever.
Okay, so that is one of my references, okay, because this film is like the great anti-war movie. One of the most incredible performances, one of the most amazing films. The director didn't make another film. E. Kilmov never made another film. And it was very hard to see
Before,
day.
yes.
Really
not
difficult
after.
to see in the past. So it's one of those missing films. It was like a famous film that nobody could ever see. And a friend phoned me up and said, they're showing this film in the Tate Modern Museum. You have to come. It's on a Sunday morning. I'm like, what is it? He goes, you won't know what it is. I never heard of the film. Come and see it. Come and see. I went to the Tate and it's like one of the most brutal, one of the most incredible, shocking, greatest films ever made. And that's one of the examples when people see my film and they do a Q&A and they go, but where's the hope at the ending? And I go, have you seen Come and See? Where's the hope at the ending of Come and See? Do you go, oh, if only there was more jokes? You know, if you made me feel better, then it would be a better film. No, the film's really heavy and it's like the most incredible anti-war movie about a child and what happens to them and their face. So Come and See is a good example. And the final one, Sam Peckinpah. You seen any Sam Peckinpah at the cinema?
Which one?
So I would say two. Straw Dogs and Wild Bunch are like two of the great...
The two I saw.
Yeah, good.
I haven't seen much.
I can give you some more obscure ones if you want. But that's another film where you watch the film, because Straw Dogs was banned for a long time and has been cut. And there was a cut because it was quite controversial, which made the controversial scene worse by cutting it in the UK. So that was another film. And then Clockwork Orange, which is also... You seen Clockwork Orange at the cinema?
Of course.
That's
at the cinema, I don't think.
Two times.
Another
at the cinema?
Amazing. Okay.
And a Clockwork Orange I think exit in the cinema again in the Monday when your
really?
movie,
Because in the UK it was banned.
Yeah.
Because what happened when the film came out, there were some awful attacks that happened, and the newspapers and the tabloids blamed the film. They said they were copying the film. So Kubrick withdrew the film. So everyone could watch it, but not in the UK. For a long time, you couldn't watch it. So they were like, these films were like really hard to see. Okay, I'll give you one last one, which is another populist movie. But here's an interesting story. Tarantino.
Yes.
Do you know Reservoir Dogs was not a success in the US when it came out? Where was it a success first?
In Italy.
The UK.
No, because it was in the Venice Festival. I think in UK. So
I was at Sundance. I think.
Sorry.
But it was in the UK. They like showed in this famous cinema called the Scala. The not La Scala here, but the Scala, which was like this famous. It was a famous cinema that used to show like underground movies, which actually they showed Clockwork Orange and Kubrick banned them and it got shut down. But they had a screening of Reservoir Dogs before anybody had heard of this film. Nobody had seen this film. And we went with some friends to watch it. And it was like amazing because it was one of those films where there was no press, no attention. Nobody knew who he was, no interviews. I think that's the great thing about going to the cinema is seeing a film when you know nothing. don't read a review, don't listen to the podcast, don't read anything until after you see the film. Go and see it knowing nothing and just see where it takes you. Where does cinema take you? Then, if you like it, read. So I never read reviews. Yeah. And then obviously the podcast. So I never know anything about a film before I see it. I never watch trailers.
Okay.
I don't. That's the thing that I would say is to just go with that. And Michael Haneke's films are the other ones that if you get a chance. Have you seen Michael Haneke's films at the cinema? They're other ones which are like any film that stops me breathing.
The Seven Continents
is good.
I love.
That's pretty good. I saw Funny Games at the cinema. You know, I've seen a lot of his films. The first Haneke film I saw was 71 Fragments in a Chronology of Chance.
Yes, the second
at
one.
the Chicago Film Festival. I was
Great
a student, and again, I was like, I can remember exactly the feeling. And that's if I watch something on my iPad or my phone or my TV, it's not the same as being in a room and that experience, and you never forget seeing that movie.
Of course.
Sorry, it's a very long answer.
No.
You can edit.
No. It's very interesting. We don't cut anything.
Vai.
The last question is, what are your favorite movies? Mario Clockwork Orange.
Okay. Good. Look at that. What's yours?
Days of Heaven.
Beautiful. Love it. Love that film.
Mine is Lesson of Darkness, Werner Herzog.
Ah. So, I got to tell you a story. Terrence Malick liked my first film, The Warrior, and contacted me and said, I really love this film. I want to produce your next movie. So for quite a long time, I was working with Terry Malick on a project. It was unreal. This is the old days. I had like an answer phone. It was like a fax machine and an answer phone, like this big box. And I'd come home and there'd be like a red light and I'd click it while I'm doing some cooking. And it'd be Terrence Malick leaving like a 15-minute message. Hi, Asif. It's just Terry. It was like nuts, that Terrence Malick. And of course, I don't know what happened to the fax machine. And one day it broke and I just chucked it away. And I could have made this story up. There's no record of the fact that Terrence Malick used to contact me and leave me long 10-minute messages. But for a short moment, I went to Austin when he was still like a recluse. And I met with Terrence and we went for Mexican food and stuff. So since then, he's become, for him, quite prolific. But that was another film which was very hard to see at the cinema, Days of Heaven. It was really difficult. And now they've reprinted it and they've bring out. So it's an amazing film. Sorry, what was your Which Herzog film?
Lesson of Darkness, the
I
Kuwait.
don't know that one.
You don't know?
Oh, the doc.
The doc.
Okay,
about
five.
Kuwait. The bombing. Sorry, of
So do you know who the editor of that was?
No.
I think it might be Joe Beanie.
See, Joe Beanie, yeah.
So
yeah.
I'm working with him right now.
Maybe Joe Beanie is coming after.
Did he come after?
Yeah, maybe.
He does Grizzly Man and quite a few other later docs.
Yeah, from the 2000, I think, old Joe Beanie.
I'm working with Joe right now on a project in London. So he's Herzog's regular editor in the latter period of working with him. Herzog, I interviewed Herzog when one of his films came out. I did a Q&A with him.
We hope to do the same at the Venice Film Festival. This year they honor him
He did a film in Japan.
Yeah, Family Romance.
Yeah, so I interviewed him for that.
Wow,
and it was just like it's like a classic kind of. And then because you know, is it Fix Corrado, which is like they take the ship over?
Yes.
So that ship, you know, it's a rubber plantation, and in the Amazon, they built this opera house, which is in the film, the opera house, in the middle of Manaus, which is in the Amazon. And so I was talking to Werner and I'm interviewing. I said, you know something? I had a film that screened at a festival in Manaus, in that opera house. He said, stop it. I said, yeah. I did a film in the North Pole with Michelle Yeoh called Far North, and they screened it in the Amazon. And I was like thinking of Werner Herzog. So I meet Werner Herzog and I'm telling him the story. And Werner's like, you know, Asif, what we should do, we will create a film school and we will go to the Amazon and we will make a film school and we will teach the local people. Like, let's do it. Let's go, Werner. How do I contact you?
Yeah.
Nothing. Never spoke to me again.
No,
but for a moment, we were going to set up a film school together.
No, he
did it.
Yeah, he's still doing it.
He does it like, you mustn't study, you should just do it. He's great.
You have to go.
He's my hero. He's also one of the directors that went from fiction to documentary to fiction. He mixes it up.
With no explanation.
That's like the reference. Exactly. Because also it's like he wants to make movies.
Yeah.
And the problem with fiction is you can spend a lot of time talking about making movies, but it's really hard to get them made. So then suddenly you make docs, you can become prolific. And
Yeah.
Werner's like the kind of godfather of that technique. Scorsese is another one who's always made documentaries in the middle of his features.
Sí.
And I think he loves music. He'll make a George Harrison film, Bob Dylan film, and then he does a gangster film or something. So these are like the references. Spike Lee also would do fiction and documentary. So they're the people that I was looking at saying, I want to do both. I don't feel like I have to pick. So, favorite films.
Favorite films. Tell us.
I've mentioned too many already, right? But I mentioned Come and See. We've mentioned Vertigo and Psycho. I would say the film, it's a pretty dark film, but it is a Scorsese film. He was a big influence. Do the Right Thing was a very big influence for me to become a director by Spike Lee. And Raging Bull is one of the films that I look at. And I just think, technically, it's a very awful man, misogynistic character and everything. But technically, this film, the script, the acting, the cinematography, the music, the editing, the sound design, it's like every single thing in this film is like so amazing. And yet it's such a dark movie, like an awful human being, but he still kind of goes there. And I think Scorsese is like, for me, like a hero of cinema, and still going, still making films. I still think his last film is like amazing for a man in his 80s to do a film about Native Americans in the US and make it a big studio film that no big directors ever touched. The kind of story of Native Americans, right? Native people, and to show what happened to them. And for him to get Leonardo and De Niro to be the bad guys, to show what they do. I think Flowers was an amazing movie.
Yeah, the most repugnant character ever seen.
So dark.
Ever played by great actors.
And I think I have so much respect for Scorsese. Yeah. And he's he's like a really good guy who's really, really given to filmmakers. And again, I've been lucky to meet him many times and go to his house for tea. And he sees everything. So you make a film, and he goes, yeah, I've seen it. He contacted me when I was a student. I made a student film, and he said, I really like your student film. Send me a copy. So, yeah, okay. And I didn't, right? Because I'm like, I don't know, where do I post it to? Martin Scorsese. And then years later, I made my first film, The Warrior, and I get a phone call, and someone said, hello, this is Martin Scorsese's assistant. He'd like to speak to you. Do you have time to talk to him? I said, give me a minute. Okay. And then for like 50 minutes, Scorsese just rings up for a chat. Who does that? I'm in London, it's raining, he's in New York. He just rings up for a chat because he sees you. He goes, this is what the guy's like. He said, yeah, I liked your short film. You never did send me the copy. He remembered. All these years earlier, so he remembered that I didn't send him the student film. I said, I'll send it. He goes, yeah, and I'd like a copy of this one as well. So then I sent it to him, and then I got to kind of know him a bit. But he's like, what? So he's the greatest living director right now, I think. But then he's also like, he really protects cinema. He cares about cinema. He's always like protecting films from around the world. But then he also always has time for filmmakers. Yeah, students. Everywhere he goes, he will talk to young people, old people. He knows everything. So he's like the guy that I think he's the man. Everyone else is basically copying Scorsese. All a new generation. You look at it, all roads lead back to Martin Scorsese, I'd say.
You think that?
And before that, it was Hitchcock.
So Scorsese and Hitchcock.
They're two for me. I mean, there's a great Italian directors, obviously, like I mentioned, Pasolini, and people like that have been a big influence. So when I did my first film, Gospel According to St. Matthew was a big influence, and Bresson's A Man Escaped were really big influences on how to tell stories visually, where you tell the story in the cut. It's not dialogue, it's purely visuals. And I think they're two examples of like great casting, non-professional actors, and the story is the tension comes with the fact that no one tells you what's going to happen. So they're two other brilliant films that I would say. And another, Tranonhon Ciclo. You ever seen Ciclo?
Ciclo. Yeah.
He won Venice, actually, in 95.
95, I think,
It's very hard to see this film.
You should the director of...
he did a film last year that won in...
Yes, the Taste of Things, the one, Marshmallow...
Tran Hong, French-Vietnamese director.
Yes, French.
Have you his second film? First film was Scent of Green Papaya.
The Scent of Green Papaya.
Second film, Cyclo. It's like the modern Bicycle Thieves.
Bicycle Thieves and
Yeah.
Bicycle Thieves, Taxi Driver is a kind of
Really good. Look for it.
Yeah.
Another film very difficult to find, but I think that film was, for me, the film I saw when I was a student that made me think, because he's French and he studied at Louis Lumiere Film School in Paris, but his background is Vietnamese and he speaks Vietnamese. So he went to Vietnam to make this film. So when I saw it as a student, I thought, okay, I'm Londoner, I'm from London, I was born here, I live here, but my background is from India.
Yes.
So when you make films, it's like, do you want to copy what everyone else is doing or do you want to be unique and different? So my student film, because of Tran Un Hun's film, I thought, okay, I'm going to shoot my graduate film from film school in India with street kids. So I made this film in the desert in India with street kids, not in English, called The Sheep Thief, which then won at Cannes. And that gave me the chance to make my first feature film, which I shot in the desert and in the Himalayas in India, called The Warrior. So that film, Cyclo, actually, like, literally, I'm in the cinema, watching it in cinema, and it was like, it changed my life. Because I watched that, I said, this is what I have to do. I have to mix my background, which is different to everybody else, with the fact that I'm European. So it's like a European-Indian film. That was the idea. And nobody else is going to make this film because nobody has my experience. And so that would be one of my favorite films, Cyclo.
Okay. Bene.
Bene, ringraziamo Asif
Thank you very
Kapadia
much.
per la bella conversazione. E da oggi rispetto a quando esce la puntata, è in sala 2073, ultima chiamata. E ringraziamo Marta e Minerva Picture per la disponibilità, ringraziamo Lucia e Flavio per l'aiuto tecnico. E thank you so much. C'è una prossima puntata. Ciao.
Ciao.
Perfetto.
Perfetto.
Ciao a tutti.
Ciao.